joining us for the first time in person. They just finished a class with Vibhor and now they're here to meet you, interact with you. I've already told them that this is not restrictive or formal in any way.
But you're recording.
But we are recording it.
It's live.
It's live to the learners,
Yeah.
nobody else.
Okay, good. That's good.
Yes. I think there are a lot of mid-career professionals who are looking for a change, who think that what they are doing is not something they want to continue. Right? What would you say to people like these who are confused, who don't want to be where they are? How do they go about moving forward in their career journey while also considering maybe some personal aspects?
So listen, the first thing is that this will happen to you many times in your career, where you won't be happy with what you're doing for whatever reason. So if I look back on my career, I was first not happy with studying metallurgical engineering. I wasn't happy because my grades were bad. I wasn't happy because my teachers were bad. I wasn't happy because I never really had any interest in the subject. And this is when I was studying at a IIT, and at that time it was probably the best IIT in the country, but I was not happy. Then I go forward to when I finished my PhD and I became an academic, and I was working as an academic. I had studied many years worked hard to become an academic, and then I realized, oh my God, I don't like what I'm doing. I wasn't happy with my boss. I felt like the work was very narrow and restrictive, and I wanted to do multiple things, and success as an academic required me to just go deeper and deeper into one subject, and I was unhappy. Then I remember that I got unhappy working at McKinsey as a consultant after 13 years, and I was like, what do I do, because I had never thought I would leave. Then I took a job and I hated the job, or rather I didn't hate the job, but I was unsuccessful. I failed at the job. And in 18 months I resigned from the biggest decision I had taken in my life to kind of leave a thriving professional career to make a switch. I think a few years ago I had to finally take a call that I needed to only focus on education and not keep doing other things. I was doing media and I was doing policy consulting and so on. So I think my own experience suggests that this notion that you want a change for various reasons will happen multiple times in your career, and it's very normal for that to happen. But every time it happens, you get a little bit rattled and you get shaken up, because you start by realizing that whatever you are doing is not what you want, but you don't know what the next thing is. And that uncertainty and the switch from an area that you are experienced in, you have a track record in, to something that is unknown makes you anxious. And this happens to everybody at every age, and it's nothing unusual. It's the first thing to realize. That's the first thing I would say, that it'll happen each time. It'll happen many times, and each time it happens, you will feel rattled, because all of us want certainty. We all want to explore, and we all want to discover, and we all want to be surprised, but we don't want unpleasant surprises. We don't want rude shocks. We want pleasant surprises. We want, that you should win the lottery rather than lose the lottery. Right? So I think a lot of this mentality makes us anxious, and we want certainty. I think in that situation, the word that you used, which is a very commonly used word very loosely used word, which is that they are confused. Confusion has a sense of, it's a pejorative, it's a negative, it's a pessimistic word. You are not confused. You have multiple possibilities, and instead of saying these are all things that I could be successful at, what is playing at the back of your mind because of the uncertainty and the newness and the anxiety and something else not having worked out is that, oh, I could fail at all of these things because I don't know any of them. So instead of saying I could be successful at any of these, what is preying on your mind is that I can be unsuccessful at all of these. I was not trained, I did not study, I never learned this when I was doing my undergrad, I never got this at the advanced management program. So how am I ever going to do this? So again, understanding that you're not telling yourself that, hey, I'm not confused. It's just that I haven't picked something. It's okay not to know what you want to do. Actually, most people don't know what they want to do. And if they think they know, it is based on very little information. It's based on certain impressions. Some people may know because they have experienced it already, but they've not really done it. So there's a good chance that they would also fail, and you will also often find friends who will say, oh, I really know what I want to do. And then 6 months later, you'll talk to them, they're doing something completely different. So it's not like when people tell you that they really know, that they actually know. They are also as anxious or as uncertain as you are. It's just that they think they know. So there's not that much difference between you and such people. It's just that having such people around puts a lot of pressure on you, because people turn around and say, "Hey, how can you not know? Aishwarya knows. She knows exactly what she wants to do. How can you not know?" So then you start thinking, oh my God, she knows, I don't know, there must be something wrong with me. And Aishwarya comes home one day and talks to your parents, and she says to your parents that, this is what I want to do, I'm going to start my own business, I'm going to launch it in Balasore, and then your parents start saying, ki dekho, usko malum hai, tumhe kuch nahi malum hai. You are so old and you have so experienced, and look, this guy is all sorted out. So all this pressure starts to come on you, and that's what makes you feel like you are confused, that you must be like her or like him to win the confidence and trust of your own friends and relatives and parents mostly in life. So I think that's the other thing I would say to people, that don't fall under that pressure. If you don't know, there's nothing wrong with that. The good news is that all options are open. So now the question becomes, what do you do? And I often tell people that in this anxiety, what happens is people become extra particular about finding that right job, they don't know, but every time something comes their way, they are like, oh, this is not for me, or but that this wrong, that wrong. And they start asking lots of questions about every opportunity. I think that is where my view is that instead of asking so many questions, you should actually grab the first opportunity that comes your way that looks interesting. I'm not saying take opportunities that are not worth it. If somebody is actually paying you very little, or if somebody is actually not giving you the respect or the due that you think you deserve, that's okay. But now that you're so open, explore. Don't now start looking for the perfect job. It's a little bit like marriage, and may not be the best analogy, but where people, once they decide to get married, the bar even goes up, right? If you otherwise met somebody in college, or you fall in love, and then that person starts to be like the person who you want to spend the rest of your life with. But if you're given the choice to choose somebody, and you are working with your parents, or if you're going online to shadi.com or one of these, you want everything to be perfect, right? All boxes to be ticked off. And then you realize that you just can't find such a person. Now, where the analogy stops is that in that situation, you can't just go and marry somebody for a little bit and marry another person for a little bit. And, so that, I'm not suggesting that that should be the analogy, but I'm just saying that that need for perfection becomes overriding, and by definition then you are constantly rejecting opportunities rather than being a little bit more open and saying, see, I don't know, so this looks interesting. If somebody is willing to hire me, why don't I go try it out? The worst thing that can happen is I'll be in the same situation 6 months, 1 year, 2 years down the road, but I would have at least learned something different. My experience in life is every time I've always tried to second guess and do a lot of due diligence and all the logical, rational thinking and taking advice, I take it up and boom, it doesn't work out. You realize that, and I'm not suggesting this for all of us, that we should just be impromptu or impetuous and just take a decision or be intuitive. Of course you'll do due diligence, you'll talk to people, you'll take advice and so on. But overthinking it sometimes gets in the way of making a switch. And so the only way you'll know what you really want to do is to explore and to try out other things. And the worst that will happen is that you won't like something and you'll say, okay, this is not for me. To give you an example, when I left McKinsey, I thought I wanted to be the CEO of a company and I was going to run large corporations and so on. And when I went to the Anand Bazar Patrika group, I was very happy, I was very excited. I thought that, it's a media company, I'm interested in media. And, the owners were people I knew very well. But then I very quickly realized that working in a family-owned business was not something that I was cut out for. And a lot of people had warned me that, Pramath, you know what you're getting into. And I said, but, I know these people so well. I've been a consultant to them for 9 years at that point in time. And how bad can it be? And they also told me the same thing. They said, oh, our warts. I still remember they used that word, our warts. So, you won't have any surprises. But I did realize that it was very difficult to change an organization that is owned. If you try to change some things in your father's hospital and clinics, I'm sure he pushes back pretty hard because, he's got a certain way of doing things and you're still the son. And in a way, I was almost treated like a family member, which was my disadvantage. And sometimes it's a disadvantage to be a family member. If you get an outsider, it's easier to push back. So when I was a consultant, it was easier for me to challenge. But when I became the CEO, I was now part of the company. I was now, in a way, part of the family. So we would get into excruciating debates whether people should be given laptops or not, or whether, we should give everybody a email ID or not, or if coffee should be free or not, right? And these are all style issues, right? It's old school versus new school, and I would get into debates. But not to bore you with my situation there, but after having thought it through, after thinking I was making a big move, after having got the opportunity that I always dreamed of, I suddenly realized that it was not for me. But I realized in that situation how much it was important for me to have that lesson that, firstly, I realized that I couldn't work for anybody. This sounds a little bit arrogant to say this, but I just could not work with under people. And I couldn't believe this about myself. It's a very arrogant thing to think, right? कि मैं किसी के साथ काम नहीं कर सकता. I won't have a boss. Right? But I did realize that I had it sounds odd to say this, but I felt like I had become too purist about how I wanted to run something or do something, and I was not willing to listen or accept. It was hard to accept that. But once I knew it, I knew that I could only succeed as an entrepreneur. I didn't become an entrepreneur because I wanted to, you know, have the entrepreneurial zeal to start up, or because I wanted to build a unicorn. I had to become an entrepreneur because I just couldn't find myself working with anybody. So I started going through the list of all the companies in India where I could work, and they were all dominated by family owners, where I would have had the same issue. Or they were large multinationals where they were the same issue. You know, multinationals tell you what to do. You are basically a cog in a big wheel. So all these realizations help you a lot. So my point being that even if things don't work out, you'll at least discover something of what you don't want. It seems like a huge price to pay. It seems like it's scary that, oh, things may not work out and then I'll be in square one. But it helps a lot because you discover things that get you closer to what you want to do. And most of the time I've found that once you end up in such a situation, you come out of it even better. Because what comes after that is actually quite fun and exciting. Because once you've failed and you've come out of the depths of that, anything seems better. Right? It can only get better. So you go in with a very positive attitude. You say, I'll try it out and so on. So for various reasons, I would say that, to summarize, number one, this is going to happen to you many, many times. It's not unusual. It's good that it's happening to you sooner rather than later, because the more times, the earlier you encounter it, the more resilient you will become to it happening again in your life. Number two, the anxiety you feel, the uncertainty you feel, the fear of change or failure that you feel is very normal. You're going to have you. And third, don't agonize too much about being confused or not knowing. It's okay not to know. In fact, the way to think about it is that you are, in the Young India Fellowship, I'm often made a joke of, where I say you are confidently confused. Right? But you have multiple options. And lastly, pick an option that comes your way and take it. Don't agonize about it too much. Don't overthink too much. The worst that can happen is it won't work out, but at least in that process you'll discover something new about yourself, about what you want to do, not want to do, that will actually advance your career and leave you in a much better place.
Thank you so much for that response. Anyone else? Okay, how about we start with you, Anand?
Thank you, Pramath, for enlightening insights on how to pivot in the career. My question is, long back, like 10 years ago, I met an IAS officer in Planning Commission. Yeah. So I was working with Planning Commission. One of the IAS officers told me that, Anand, what are your plans now? So I was telling him I'm really confused. And I was, back then 26. And then that IAS officer told me that, Anand, you should be settled by 30. You should be married, have kids, have a home, and have a good job, and be settled by 30. And I have gone with that notion for plenty of time. I'm like, too much of pressure, right? So now I'm 37, and I feel that, there's something that I'm lacking. I feel that there needs to be something more that I should be doing. However, having said that and looking at your insights, I feel how important it is to practically think these situations, because all said and done, all of these looks very good, but when you come to sort of practically implement it, you find a lot of thinking around that needs to be done, right? So how do you tackle that, and how do you sort of stop overthinking on issues like this, tackle the situation?
So how many of those things have you done now that you said you are 37?
Yeah.
So how many of the things that this IAS officer wanted you to do have you done? None?
No.
Do you think you are settled?
Yes. I feel I'm a little settled.
Did he said you should have been what? He said you need to have house,
Yeah.
marriage and kids.
I have.
All three you have.
Yes.
Money.
So you are settled.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm settled, but I'm not that happy in terms of what I'm doing right now.
So can I ask you a few questions to illustrate? Because otherwise I can give you gyan, but
Yeah.
it will feel like similarly, it won't seem practical.
True.
So right now you're not happy.
Yeah.
Okay, give him a mic. And if you don't want to share anything publicly, you can stop me.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's okay.
Yeah. So why do you think you're not happy?
I feel, I had some qualities that I wanted to sort of bring about. Say for example, public relations. That I felt that I'm really good at during my college days and schooling. And now I'm in academics, so I'm reading a lot and talking to students, and that's it. That is what I'm doing right now. And I'm also consultant to certain places. So I feel that this job is not something that I wanted to do. I feel
So, what is the job?
I am currently working as an academic in corporate law at various places.
What do you mean various places? You teach corporate law?
Yeah, I teach corporate
Where do you
law.
teach?
I've been teaching at NLUs, and I have taught at Bitsam. I have taught at Narsi Monji, and
So you
quite a number
you
of
teach
places.
corporate law
Yeah,
at all these places.
yeah,
It's a course that you teach.
yeah.
And you don't enjoy it?
I used to enjoy it. Like, if you ask me 3 years ago, like before COVID, I used to enjoy it, but now I don't.
And why is that?
I don't know. It's something that I need to figure out.
Yeah, so that,
Yeah.
see, now, question like that immediately sends me a signal that that's a pretty strong thing to say that I don't enjoy it anymore.
Yeah.
Now the question is what happened and why are you not enjoying it? So I think something for you to think about. I'm not going to go into it right now.
Yeah.
My sense is that you're probably feeling jaded,
Okay.
that you are teaching the same thing again and again and again and again, and there is no growth, there is no change, there is no evolution, right? But you said that you wanted to do something else,
Yeah.
and you said PR.
Yeah.
So
But
what
I'm
is,
not so sure about it.
yeah, so what is PR mean?
Maybe something to do with talking to people and enjoying.
But we all do talking to people.
Yeah, we do, but doing it for money, say for example, marketing or sales for that matter.
But marketing, sales, and PR are very different.
Yeah.
So somewhere you have to ask yourself, which of those three do you really want to do?
Right. That's why I'm here. So to figure out things.
Yeah. So it's good that you're figuring that out.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing, right? And I think it's almost like problem solving on product management. I don't know what Vibhor taught you today, but product management is like that, right? He's left now. But you burrow deep down and say, which product feature, what, it's problem solving. It's all about. So I think you need to problem solve on yourself to say, yeah, talking to people is too generic.
Yeah.
I also enjoy talking to people.
Yeah.
That can't become a profession. Or if it does want to be if you do want to make it a profession, then you need to think about becoming an Ankur Wariku, right? And is that what you want to become? Ankur
Yeah.
yeah. So the question is, do you want to become like an Ankur Wariku? Is that what you want to become? So I would ask myself, when I say I want to be able to do sales or marketing or PR, understand that those are three very different things. So again, I need to, when I make that statement, it's a very loaded thing you just said.
Yeah.
So when you say it that way, to me it seems like you haven't thought it through, because they're such different that you need to understand the difference between that. And it's a logical next step that I would take. But then what I would say is that you actually have something good that you're doing, which is teaching.
Yeah.
Teaching is a very noble profession. You seem to be doing well. You have lots of teaching assignments. Some of these places also pay well. I mean, I think Bitsom pays well. I know what Bitsom pays. It probably pays the highest in the country.
True.
So, if you reach that level where you are earning this money and you have these relationships, at age 37, I wouldn't give up those relationships unless you really hate it. And then the question becomes, which of these PR, sales, or marketing could I combine that with? So, for example, since I have the knowledge, the Bitsom people are setting up Bit School of Law. I don't know if you know about it.
True.
Now, if you can teach there and also do PR and marketing for the Bit School of Law, then that could be an intersection of both what you are doing and what you would like to do. Now, have you approached them with this idea?
Not yet.
But why are you waiting? See, that's my point. You'll never get the answer, right? If you think that you just have to go ahead and volunteer and try. It's not like they're offering you a job yet. But you won't approach till you are sure, because you'll think there's something better. And you'll say, I haven't thought it through completely. If I approach now and they say yes and I take it, then there may be something better, which I may be saying no to, and I should be sure before I say yes, or I approach them, therefore let me not approach them. And I'm saying, hey, if you know, and if you've thought of, had you already thought of this idea before?
Yeah, I thought about this, but
why didn't you approach them? I'm sorry, I'm not trying to interrogate you.
I fully understand, but there were certain criteria.
You need to be in Delhi?
No.
Where are you based?
I'm in Chennai right now.
Okay.
I'm in Chennai right now. So I willfully chosen a leadership under which I wanted to work. So
Sorry, you?
The leadership that was offered was sort of good.
What do you mean? Your leadership or the people you work with?
The people that I work.
So you are happy with something about your job?
Yeah.
Have you been to them and told them that you'd like something different or something new?
I have been trying to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, that is there.
Yeah.
But one thing that was, which I got, say for example, I also thought of something like EdTech platform that could be towards, little bit of entrepreneurial in nature. But then I thought about how do I go along, because as you said,
So you mean starting
in
an
academics.
EdTech platform for yourself?
Yeah.
So see, Anand, now what is worrying to me is that you are all over the place.
Yeah, true.
Right? And actually I shouldn't say worrying, I'm happy that you are all over the place. But you then need to pick any one of these and do it. Because otherwise you will never get an answer. And new ideas will keep coming. So somewhere I think you are restless about what you are doing. And what you have to ask yourself is, sometimes we are always looking for something better. So one of the things you have to ask yourself is, are you just restless, or do you really need to give up what you are doing? If you don't need to give up what you are doing and you are happy doing what you are doing, then adding to that may take care of your restlessness, rather than giving this up and making a big switch. You don't have to make a big switch. It looks like you've done what the Niti Aayog guy told you. You've got a house, you've got a wife, you've got a kid. Sorry, you don't.
His plan is 5-year plan.
No, I have already.
No, what plan?
No, I mean, I just said
5
that
years
Niti
plan.
Aayog actually planned his 5 years, 10 years.
Oh
The
yeah,
planning
but that was
commission.
when he was in. That was for when he was in the 20s, na? तो वो तो हो गया. It's
Yes.
done. Correct.
Yeah.
So you need a next 5-year plan. Right?
Yeah. No, but I got some insight.
No, and the thing is, one thing about entrepreneurship, if I
Yeah.
can say, which may be not just about him, but, and obviously I hope that there are some insights for all of you and not just for you. That's why I was picking on him. See, entrepreneurship is not for everyone. And entrepreneurship is not about this next new fun idea that you have. either you are an entrepreneur or you're not. So, Shridinath sounds like an entrepreneur to me because he wants to keep doing new things, right? He's basically signed up to be an entrepreneur. He's going from idli dosa to
Wellness products.
yeah, and to me, that's the heart of somebody who just wants to be an entrepreneur. Now he's willing to take those risks. I'm not even asking him whether he has a house and wife and kid, and when he will have, because he probably doesn't care, because all he cares about is starting something new, something different. And one of those things may work out and he may fail and he'll say, okay, okay, I've failed, and he's already failed a couple of times and he'll start again.
That was the question I wanted to ask.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the mindset of an entrepreneur. If you are thinking about whether to become an entrepreneur or not, then you are not an entrepreneur. That answers the question.
Okay.
So if you were ready to be an entrepreneur, then you answered the question whether you should be an entrepreneur. When people come to me and say, you know what, Pramath, I'm thinking of starting up, but I'm thinking of not giving up my job because if I'm not successful, then I can continue my job. I said, boss, you're not ready to start up. Or people come to me, should I start up now or should I start up later? And if you're asking this question, then you're not ready to start up. Because people don't ask somebody else whether they should start up or not. Okay? You don't ask people, should I fall in love or should I not? You meet somebody and you fall in love, right? And you can't do anything about it. Entrepreneurship is like that. It just happens. And when it happens, then you know it has happened at that point. So if it has not happened to you, then you're not an entrepreneur. So put that out of your head. But sometimes when you have all these ideas, one way to think about this is to see, is there an intersection of all these ideas? Remember Venn diagrams?
Yeah.
This used to be called modern maths when I was growing up. So there's a Venn diagram, there are these Ikigai guys also do this Venn diagram.
True.
Okay. So for example, one Venn diagram is teaching law. One Venn diagram is sales, marketing, PR. One Venn diagram is EdTech. Now if you look at the intersection of all of these, there's corporate law, there's EdTech, and there's marketing and sales. So why don't you start your own YouTube channel on teaching corporate law?
It is there.
So grow that.
Yeah. Okay.
You are teaching at different places.
Yeah.
You have your YouTube channel. Now go hard after that. No, figure out how do you grow somebody's YouTube channel. I don't know how to grow a YouTube channel, but people grow YouTube channels. Then look at Physics Wala, look at, I'm sure you all know more about this than I do, right? People who have built massive following teaching online. You can become the Khan Academy of Law. Can you? I think that's what you should try to do. That's how Salman Khan, the other Salman Khan, not the tiger, but the Silicon Valley Salman Khan, right? So that's how he started. He started by teaching his nieces how to do math using, that time YouTube was not there, he was using Yahoo videos. So I think that's at the intersection of that, and since you want to do PR and marketing, go figure out how do you do YouTube marketing, how do you grow your viewers. So again, not to make this a counseling session for you, but sometimes when you're confused, you can find something at the confluence of these things. And because you already have something stable, you have the luxury of trying these things out.
True.
Most of us, I'll tell you, and I'm not singling you out, but most of us want to do a lot, but we are not disciplined about it. And then we think somehow the world is conspiring to not allow me to do things. I do a lot of coaching for Harappa. So this morning I was coaching a senior tech guy in a robotics firm. Now, I've been coaching him for 13 sessions. In the first session we had identified that he wants to learn more about the subject that he's part of. And I've been giving him advice and we've been making plans. The guy he's not able to find time. He keeps blaming that he can't find time. But he keeps saying that I'm not growing. At some point I'm saying, boss, because of the company and the role that you have and that fact that they contracted with me, you have now spent 26 hours of your time being coached by Pramath Sinha. Could you not have found 2 hours, 3 hours, 5 hours of time to start learning this new thing that we kept talking about? I'm not trying to beat up on him, but I'm just saying that we get caught up in this thing about, I'm thinking, I'm doing, I'm talking to people and so on. If you're really serious, then it's just a matter of motivating yourself to saying, okay, if this is what I want to do, then this is what I want to do. Let me go try it out. So I personally think you're onto something already. You have something exciting. How many people here have a YouTube channel? You're the only guy who has a YouTube channel. It's so exciting. I don't have a YouTube channel. I'd love to have a YouTube channel. I don't know what I would teach in that YouTube channel. You already have one. You should try to build that. What do you guys think?
Thank you.
Okay.
Also, probably you could put your courses on multiple platforms, right? Udemy and all of that as well also.
No, then he'll have to share his revenues with others. Why should he give up his revenues? Right? See, now we are confusing him. No, I'm doing it purposely because he'll get 10 pieces of advice like this. Now, you were saying something, you don't know anything about this stuff, right? So he's already given you some advice. Now you're thinking about it. I'm telling you, no, don't do it, right? Then I'll say, why Udemy? Put it on Harappa, yaar. We'll start a law channel. Seema will teach law at Exol. And people will say, just take charge. And you already have a YouTube channel. Okay. Other questions? Yeah. Shirdi Nath, right?
Yes, sir.
That's the way to say it, no?
Shirdi-Nath, yes.
Shirdi Nath, yes.
Sir, the question that I have, I'm very excited about the things I do. I want to bring in new things, build new things. I learn if it fails.
Good.
But the main pressure that I'm facing is that, in India, we are very close to our parents. We have to take responsibilities. We have to give them certain standard of living. Or when we get married, we have to provide certain standards. But when we are doing entrepreneurship, so many things are uncertain. Finance or the term called stability and all these things. How do I cope up and put everything in place? Or how if there is something that is putting a lot of pressure on me, that is this particular aspect. Like the IAS who gave inputs to him, it will be my parents or relatives who would say at the age of 35 you would be married, having kids.
75?
35. So like I'm just feeling a little pressurized about that particular aspect. So how do I deal with that?
So I'm also a bit traditional and conservative in these matters. I think that there's a age and stage for becoming an entrepreneur. I don't think you can become an entrepreneur if you can't put food on the table. And that's something to keep in mind. Now, if you do have to look after your parents, or if you do have obligations towards a family and to your spouse and so on, then I think you have to delay, and you're not able to do that. Then you have to delay your plans for entrepreneurship. You can always become an entrepreneur when you're 43, when I first became an entrepreneur. Become an entrepreneur in your 50s. But I think you have to be clear about what is it that you want to prioritize in your life at any point in your life. I think you have had a chance to become an entrepreneur and you've been trying
Yes.
for maybe 6 years,
Yes.
10 years, something like that, between 5 and 10 years, I can guess.
Yes.
Now, if you're getting to the point where it seems like this is not working out, and you feel like your parents need you, then you just have to take the hard call and say, listen, I've had the luxury of trying this out for 10 years. Most people don't have the luxury of doing that. I'm privileged that way. And I couldn't make it work, but I learned a lot in the process. So for 10 years, I'm going to now focus on my parents and my family and
Probably learn better skills, get maturity.
no, and you may not need those skills to be successful as an entrepreneur. Don't even get into that logic.
Okay.
You know, again, we are overthinking it.
Right.
भाई मैं नहीं कर सकता अभी बस खत्म हो गई बात. That's the end of that, right? Whether I learn, don't learn, what I learn, who cares? Right now, my priority is that I can't put food on the table, so I can't afford to be an entrepreneur. If I didn't have parents and my parents could be looked after by my brother or sister, or my father was independently wealthy, and I'm not married and I don't care about getting married, or I don't mind not having children, then you can go ahead and do what you want, right? But I think sometimes the harsh reality of life is that it is what it is. You are not on the street, you are not suffering, you don't have that kind of constraint, so you can always start something later. So I think that sometimes these things are very simple, it's very clear, and you have to be clear about what is your context and what is your situation. If your context and your situation is that your parents need you, then you need to go out and get a job and start supporting them. I would literally work backwards and say, okay, so your parents need you, how long will they need you, when do they need you? And maybe your parents don't need you, maybe you're thinking it in your head. A lot of kids come to me and say, oh, but my parents are getting old, but so what does your dad do? Oh, dad is very active, doing. What makes you think your dad needs you? Is it just love of your parents that you're saying I need to do something? So that to be very practical. I can tell you that my parents actually never really needed money from me. At one point I started, and I just the other day I was going through some of my mother's papers. So I had to write them a letter because my income tax, my accountant told me that they need to document that, because I was sending money to my parents every year. So I remember that at some point I was sending them 10,000 rupees a month, and at some point I made it 20,000 rupees a month. This is like 30, 40 years ago. So I had to write a letter which my accountant wanted, because that would be part of the tax return, that I'm paying you these 10,000 rupees to meet your monthly expenses, and now I'm increasing it to 20,000 rupees. I know that I used to pay them that money, but my father would just put it into an account and not use it. And so at one point I had that discussion with him, and I said, okay, fine, don't use it, because if we need it in a hurry, illness, travel, whatever, you can use it. And at some point in time, many years later, I think they started using it for travel. They would go visit my sisters in the US, and those tickets were expensive and so on. But my parents never really needed money. I used to feel the pressure, so I was sending them checks. They didn't really need the money. So I think sometimes you just have to be practical and say, if my parents are doing okay, if his dad is doing okay running his medical college, a medical hospital, he doesn't need to worry about. That's why he's actually doing whatever he can, right? He doesn't have to take care of his parents. So your situation may be different, and that is your situation. So his situation is different, your situation is different, everyone's is different. I would ask some very hard questions about what does life hold in store for you for the next 10 years. Because if you haven't built a business, take it from me in writing, a business will take 10 years to build. It won't take less than 10 years to build. So if it takes 10 years to build, you have to be clear what is expected of you for the next 10 years. And then plan your life accordingly. If for the next 10 years you feel your parents need you, and you need to get married and have a house and have kids, then unless you marry a rich woman, you have no choice.
Worried about the taking care of my parents, nothing else. So that's it. So shall I pass on the mic?
Unless you have something more to ask.
No. Thank you for answering.
No.
So I have a personal question. How do you manage your mental health? Because when you are at a leadership position, you need to be calm, you need to be in control, and you need to clear your mind, right? You need to be in present to take those tough calls. So just that. 2-3 things I do. So again, I won't give Gyan, I'll tell you how I deal with it.
uh, one of the things I realized a few years ago is that there will be stresses that will come with work, and sometimes they come together also. So you feel really overwhelmed. Feels like nothing is going right, everything is going wrong. Whatever you do, it gets worse, right? So one way I like to think about it is that all of us have multiple identities. So one identity is your identity in your work, and in fact that identity in your years where you all are is a very big part of who you are. It also creates some of the reasons for the mental stress that comes. But we all have other identities. One other identity could be that you have some interest outside of work, which is a very private interest. Sometimes it can be a public interest in the sense, not in public interest that way, but other people may be involved. It could be friends, it could be, if you're an artist, it could be other artists, right? So there's something else that you are doing outside of work. And then there is some family related identities. So he's thinking very strongly about his identity as a son. He might be thinking very strongly about his identity as a head of the family or a spouse or a father. So we have these identities which are also family and relationship related. There could be identities coming from some volunteer work that you do. So all of us have multiple identities, and maybe you can think of all the identities that you have. And so what I tend to do is, if one of my identities is causing me a lot of stress, then I look for getting energy out of one of the other identities so that I can balance or cancel or, nullify it in some way. So I'll give you, for example, one of the things that I have found over the years that gives me a lot of comfort is the fact that I'm a very introverted person. Most people don't know this. So my best way of tackling problems is to actually really spend time thinking about it on my own. So, and I can do that best when I'm walking, and I love listening to Hindustani classical music. So now, as a routine, every morning I go for a walk. And even if I wake up feeling very anxious sometimes or full of all these things in my head and I'm stressed and I'm like, yesterday that happened, this happened, you suddenly wake up and all the things start going through your head. Taking that walk. Now, you may say this is like meditation or so this is like exercise or whatever, but to me it is actually about my identity as somebody who is introverted and likes listening to Hindustani classical music. There, nothing can judge me, there's nobody judging me, there's no people I have to sort out issues with, or nobody is getting offended because of what I said or didn't do, which is usually what causes stress, right? So it's my private space, and in that private space no one can touch me, if I can say that, right? And that's where I can draw a lot of energy from. Another space that I personally love working in is, I do a lot of work in Hindi literature. It's more, most people don't know about it. It's become more visible now because of social media, and I've started to push work in that area. So people see my name associated. They don't know what's actually going on. But there's a team of people who works on it, just as there's a team of people at Harappa, or there's a team of people at 8Sol, or there's a team of people at Ashoka. I have a small team, about 7-8 people, who work with me on that. Every Sunday we have a call. Now again, that's a purely, it's entrepreneurial, it's very close to my heart. I don't have customers, clients, pressures of revenue, profit, scale. It's just fun stuff that I do, right? Now, that again gives me a new identity, a different identity. In that identity, there's zero stress. I mean, there could be stress sometimes, but the only stress that happens there is that one of the team members is unwell, or some program that was supposed to be recorded didn't get recorded, and I'm like, ठीक है यार, इस Sunday को नहीं करते, next Sunday कर लेंगे, right? So again, having that as part of a portfolio of identities allows me to retreat almost. I may be hiding in that while the whole world around me is collapsing, but I have that to hold on to, and that anchors me. So that's how I think about it. Whenever I get stressed, I retreat into one of those spaces where I don't have stress. Now you may say that I'm in denial, or it may be that I'm not. I mean, ultimately you'll have to pay attention to the problem. You'll have to come back at it. But this just gives you a little bit of distraction and relief from being constantly bombarded by, what's going on. So this happens to me at, there's been lots of crises at Ashoka. You may know about some of them. When these crises happen, you are like 24/7, you are like under pressure. To give you an example, you are aware, a student committed suicide at Ashoka. That's the worst nightmare that you can have, right? And when you deal with stress like that, and there's stuff that's coming at you from all sides, you have to have some space where you can retreat, where you don't have to deal with that constantly. And I think not having that space can lead to mental health issues. That's what I try to avoid. And I do that by creating these spaces. So I hope that was helpful. And I think all of you can do that. I mean, of course, there's counseling, and there's psychiatry, and there's therapists, and there's all kinds of other ways, and there's everybody uses meditation and so on. Everybody has their own ways, but this is my hack. If you would like.
I think we'll break for lunch.
Okay. All right.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Good to chat.
And we can continue the conversation up while having food.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard there was a party last night.
I haven't heard about
Oh,
that.
you haven't heard about it? I was just fishing. Figured you must have all arrived a day earlier.
There might be one today.
Oh.